Mando and Grogu showed up in this episode of Golden Girls. Oh my god.
Yeah, okay. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Real quick before questions, we need to send a shout out and a thank you to Damocles94, who joined our Patreon at the Jedi Master level this past week. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us.
Doing the intro is kind of hard, huh?
I know.
You gotta come out the gate with that energy.
That's true. I should have been like, yeah, like you.
Eli is Do or Do Not 7 asks if anyone should inherit the fedora after Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, it's Indiana Jones season, which I wanted to take this question because I think the video that comes out the day before this is Indiana Jones, and it's going to be all Indiana Jones for a week. I'm just warning people. Even the Q&A, we have one Indy question. The rest are all going to be Star Wars. But I did want to start talking about Indiana Jones because we're less than a week away to the fifth and final movie. So should the franchise continue on in some way, minus Harrison Ford, maybe minus Indy himself?
But this is specifically about the fedora.
Right. I mean, yeah, who's going to take on the mantle of
I'm
the franchise?
Thinking of hats.
Yeah, okay, I guess that could mean there would be a recasting. In my mind, I'm thinking, could he just pass the fedora on to someone else? Like, I had three options in mind, and I was just going to run them by you. But we could talk recasting, too, if you want, but I'm against it.
I was literally just thinking of hats. So I was like, yeah, they could give someone else the hat and have them wear it, but wouldn't it be more fun if we did like a bowler hat or a beret?
You're getting like real... I like that you went to literal hats, and I was like metaphorically speaking. This is a metaphorical fedora in my head. It's fine.
We could change up the hat a little bit, change the hat game up. I don't know if that would offend a lot of people. I think it would be hilarious.
Okay,
though.
well, like to build off of that, one of my options was that if we were gonna keep this going, is instead of a fedora, we have a New York Yankees ball cap, because that's what Short Round wears.
Oh, does he still wear that? I wonder though.
I don't know. Probably not. He might have it just like sitting off to the side, like off on memories, but
I don't know. Like a sports hat isn't quite as timeless, you know?
It is when Short Round wears it.
I mean, I guess. We'll have to see Short Round and see if he's still wearing it or not.
And I wonder if he's like, call me Tall Round now. I'm I'm an adult. I'm Academy Award winner Ki-Hee Kwan. I'm Tall Round now.
Yeah, I'm Tall Rectangle now.
Tall Oval. But yeah, like Ki-Hee Kwan even said he would be down to come back as Short Round. We don't know. We haven't seen the movie yet. We don't know if he's in Indy 5. If he is, then he and Harrison have been playing it so coy. Like, they seem so surprised every time they run into one another. So I'm not expecting Short Round. I also, like, I would welcome seeing Ki-Hee Kwan do something else.
Yeah. Okay.
He's on fire right now.
He really is. The idea of where Indiana Jones goes after this, Harrison Ford is not going to be playing him anymore. I think they should do a new Young Indy series, and eventually he gets the hat. That's like one of the MacGuffins.
The MacGuffin is the hat. Well, we have the origin story for the hat from Last Crusade.
Yeah.
So, but like that could be
just some bloke.
His name is Fedora. The series finale is him going on a Boy Scouts camping trip in Utah, and we're like, we know where he's going.
Honestly, I wouldn't be mad at that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think personally, I don't even know if I want Indy, the franchise, to keep going. There were rumors of like an Abner Ravenwood Disney Plus series, which seems like it could be a young Indy adventure.
Abner?
Yeah, that's Marion's father, and we know that like Indy was with Abner and Marion for a while, so that could have been like a young Indy thing.
I don't know that that's a name that can carry a show.
I agree. That's why I was like, when I heard an
Ravenwood,
Abner,
yes.
Ravenwood is a cool title.
Just Ravenwood.
Just Ravenwood. That's so Ravenwood.
No, yeah, no Abner though.
Yeah,
Sorry
Abner,
for all the Abners out there.
I know we've offended a bunch of old people, but
If your name is Abner, go eat some prunes.
Oh, if your name is Abner, I am sorry. But yeah, I just feel like now on Disney Plus, Abner Ravenwood doesn't work. I was curious about that rumor, but that could have been what they really meant was a young Indy series. I'd be okay with a new young Indiana Jones style adventure. I don't know if they're gonna consider the TV series as it is now to be like quote canon. They referenced it a bit in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, so it's kind of just like it's there, but it was never as popular as the films are. I haven't seen most of them. I think I've seen one or two over the course of my life, but even now on Disney Plus, I'm like, I should watch those, but I haven't yet.
We got so much to watch.
But that's kind of the thing with Indiana Jones is I don't even know if I need or want it to keep going. I don't know. Like with this feels like the end of an era for Harrison Ford, and I'm like, I don't know. I would be okay if this is the end.
Has Harrison Ford expressed his wishes for the continuation of Indy's story?
He said something like, the character dies with me. So,
and that's fair for him to say if he wants that. If if Spielberg, Lucas, all of them agree, I think that's fine. But I was gonna ask, do you think an animated Indiana Jones show could carry itself?
Yeah, honestly,
that'd be interesting.
I think there is. I'll try to find the link and we can post it, because there's a really cool animated like intro opening to a series that just someone made as a fan, and I love the art style. It's really neat. I'll see if I can find it. And
like all the wacky ideas that Spielberg and Lucas came up with, that they were like, oh, we really can't get away with that in live action. They could do it in an animated show.
Yeah, it's just, Indy is a weird like love for me, because I do love the movies and the character, but I'm also like, I'm not constantly clamoring for more. The way that Star Wars, I'm like, I love that entire universe. It's almost that the universe is what I love most about Star Wars, and Indy is like real world.
Yeah.
And they're just fun adventures.
There's like hundreds upon thousands of years to expand in the Star Wars universe, and we can hop around to different areas of that. The Indy universe is quite small.
Yeah. So I'm like on this fence where I would be totally happy if they announced a young Indy series, but I'm also like, if they never do, it's fine.
Yeah. Also, I don't want that to come out as me being like, oh, it feels small, because I've heard people say that. Like, the universe feels small. It's just a small amount of time.
Yeah.
The Indy.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Like, the way that Star Wars can do Dawn of the Jedi 25,000 years in the past, all the way, like, it's a whole different universe to flesh out as we see fit, whereas Indy has to keep some level of reality and occasionally open a magic box that melts faces.
Let's go see those knights from 800 years before Last Crusade.
That'd be interesting. Like
and it ends with him just being like,
the First Crusade.
All right, let me open this book and start reading.
Yeah, you want to see what that one knight did for all those years.
Yeah.
But back to the original question. I was thinking that the options that exist are Short Round, Helena Shaw, or Mutt. And I don't really think Short Round would be my vote out of those. But I just...
Helena Shaw is...
the goddaughter, Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I mean, I love her and just about everything she does, but we haven't seen Dial of Destiny yet. So having not seen it, I can't really say for sure, but I would enjoy a show about her, I think.
Yeah. So I think that my vote is for the metaphorical fedora is that it does not get passed on to another character. Like, I think I'm cool if this is the final story for Indiana Jones, because there are still things I need to go back and watch the young Indiana Jones adventures, and I need to read some books and comics and just spend some time in that world.
Sorry, Pippin.
Yeah, Pippin walked in and everything stopped for Molly.
Mappa wants to know what Mon Mothma's role will be like in the Ahsoka series.
I have to assume that she is still going to be the Chancellor. We're, 5 years after Return of the Jedi. I think she's still going to be Chancellor. That she looks very Chancellor-esque in that one shot we've seen her of. Yeah, I think that's it. But I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
that's what I want her to be.
I almost want to say that she's not going to have much of a role in this, that it's going to be more like a cameo, and that potentially that one shot of her that we see in the trailer is all we get.
I think you're probably right. I do think it'll be a cameo, but it's a cameo I'm excited for because we have been spending time in like The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett talking about the failings of the New Republic. And I think that they are all accurate. I get what they're going for. We've just spent a lot of time with like bureaucrats and Tim Meadows' character. And I want to see how Mon Mothma feels about all this, because she fought so hard to bring down the Empire. She led the rebellion. She achieved victory. And yeah, it's difficult to now restore a republic. And she's not doing a perfect job, but I don't know, as Joseph Scrimshaw at Force Center says a lot of times, like, he just wants to see justice for the idea that the New Republic is better than the Empire, and making sure that, like, Star Wars clearly states that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to see Mon Mothma kind of make that case in Ahsoka, because it sounds like even Ahsoka is going to have some doubts about this New Republic, and maybe that's part of the story, is her accepting Mon Mothma and her leadership and getting back out of this. We don't know what state her mind is in, but she just seems a little bit cut off right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not even going to feel like a cameo, really. It's like this big crossover event. Anytime Mon Mothma shows up in anything, you know, she's been around for so long, and we've gotten to see her in like all these little pockets of different kinds of Star Wars. So like after seeing her so much in Andor, this is really exciting, and I wouldn't really call it a cameo at this point.
Well, we don't know. Like, if it's just one scene, I'd consider that a cameo. If it's every episode, then it's a guest star or whatever, co-star. Yeah. But I also hope that people bring up, like Ahsoka just talks about how great she looks. She's like, it's been 15 years since Andor, and you are glowing. You look the same.
Ryan Hammond asks what aspects of Thrawn's character we're looking forward to seeing in the Ahsoka series.
I chose this one partially because I know you don't have as much of a connection to Thrawn as like I do, or fans that grew up with the EU and the original Thrawn trilogy and stuff. So I'm curious of your answer, but I'll start and just say I really hope that they lean into his love of the arts more than they did in Star Wars Rebels. I love that aspect about him, even though sometimes it can come off as a bit of a superpower, but I don't care. Like, I thought it was the coolest thing in Legends, and the way that it's handled in Star Wars Rebels, I actually think was perfect, because it wasn't him making giant logical leaps. He recognized Sabine's art. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that episode, Through Imperial Eyes, I think that's what it's called, that was my favorite version of Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels. I thought he was great.
Yeah. I think just the fact that we're getting a big villain who isn't, you know, like mustache twirly, kind of like sniveling, like, he's not a super hateable guy.
Yeah. Oh, like, he is respectable. That was one of the big things that Timothy Zahn wanted when he was writing the character, is that Thrawn doesn't rule so much out of fear like Vader and Palpatine. The people under his command are actually like, oh, he's competent. He's not like Admiral Ozzel.
Competent is a good word for it.
He's worth following. And Thrawn does kill one of his own men, or orders the death of one of his own men in the old books for failure. So he's not like above that, but he's also not doing that all the time. He didn't do it in Star Wars Rebels. So, yeah, I look forward to seeing a competent Imperial.
Yeah.
Another aspect, here's something from Star Wars Rebels I didn't like as much, is that in Season 3 especially, the Rebels kept on escaping. Like, they would foil Thrawn's plan and they would get away, and everyone's like, Grand Admiral Thrawn, what do we do? And he's like, oh, we'll win. They win this round, but we're going to win the war, and this is all part of my plan. And it's like, okay, you can only say that so many times. Like, once or twice I get. And it does work out. He does find them at the end of Season 3 and everything, but I don't want to see him just writing off failure after failure as like, oh, it's all part of the grand scheme.
Yeah. He's just a smart dude, and I'm excited to see that play out in live action because, yeah, the voice work, everything about him, the way he speaks, his, the fact that we don't see him get super worked up about anything, hardly ever.
One time in Rebels, yeah.
Yeah, the one time, and it was more scary because of that. So I'll be interested to see if something similar like that happens in live action, and I think that'll be a really cool performance.
Yeah, he's just a different type of villain. He's not a giant, evil, dark sorcerer. He's a great military commander. There is there's layers behind him where you understand his motivations. It doesn't excuse anything that he does, but his motivations aren't evil. He just, wants his victory so much. He wants to protect his people so much that he makes a deal with the devil and he loses himself. Because he is still the bad guy. He is still a fascist, and he's okay working with Palpatine and his super weapons and the destruction of Alderaan. He's like, I don't like it, but I'll accept it. And it's like, that's not good. I think a lot of people want to just excuse Thrawn because he's cool. He is cool, but he's still bad. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. Because I think that the original Thrawn books really... Okay, Pippin. The original Thrawn books really do show him as a villain still. And then it was later books that showed his motivations.
Yeah, and he holds this really mysterious aura for a lot of people that haven't read any of the books or seen Rebels. It kind of reminds me of Maul. He was a cool bad guy that we didn't know anything about at first, so it might have that same vibe for people seeing him on screen for the first time.
Yeah. But for me, the answer is the art stuff. I want to see him be a little Sherlock Holmesy. I want to see him figure some stuff out and outsmart our heroes.
Pippin.
Everybody look at my butt.
What a star.
Little starfish.
Now a word from our sponsor, Babbel. Molly and I just got back from Star Wars Celebration in London, and it's really given us the itch to see more of Europe. If you have an upcoming summer trip abroad, my go-to travel hack is Babbel. Whether you're a seasoned traveler or embarking on your first adventure, communication is key to fully experiencing a new culture. That's where Babbel comes in. Babbel is the language learning app that sold more than 10 million subscriptions. Thanks to Babbel's addictively fun and easy, bite-sized language lessons, there's still time to learn a new language before you reach your destination. I took Spanish in high school and college, and completing the short lessons on Babbel has been a great way to refresh my understanding of the language again. You only need 10 minutes to complete a lesson, so you can start having real-life conversations in as little as 3 weeks. The lessons are expertly crafted around real life, so you can learn to have practical conversations. And there are a ton of ways to learn with Babbel. Beyond lessons, you can access podcasts, games, videos, stories, and more. Plus, it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee. Shriwook and Huttese aren't options yet, but you can choose from 14 languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. Right now, get up to 55% off your subscription when you go to babbel.com/Star Wars. That's babbel.com/Star Wars for up to 55% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life.
Starchasm wants to know if droids have sentience, if they're part of the living force, and if they can use the force.
We've talked about this before, but I think it's a timely question because we've got the Dark Droids comic arc coming up. And Charles Soule, when I spoke to him in an interview a couple weeks ago, he said that these questions will be answered, or some of them at least. Are they sentient? I think some of them. And Charles Soule said straight up, the reason why some seem like they are and some seem like they aren't, that's going to be discussed in the comic book, which I'm looking forward to hearing about. I don't think they can be part of the living force, but then we start to get all philosophical about like what is life. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, depends on your definition of sentience.
Sentience, I would argue, is like the existence of a soul and feelings and stuff like that.
But what is a soul?
Exactly. We're immediately getting philosophical.
Like, is it something we're all born with and then it dies with us? Or does it, like, no one can quantify what that is? It's not something that you go and put in a Build-A-Bear.
It's that little heart that you kiss and you put in the Build-A-Bear.
The heart.
Yes. So, I mean, I do think that C-3PO has a soul. Like, he has thoughts and feelings that are his own. To me, he is sentient. R2-D2, BB-8, I consider them to be sentient.
Well, then I would argue that all droids are. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, and that might be the case, but there are some droids that I'm trying to think of a good example, because like even a mouse droid, which is a pretty simple droid, but they seem like they have some autonomy. We get upset when they get hurt. Gonk droids are walking batteries, but same kind of thing where I kind of feel like there's something in there.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it can say gonk with different tones.
True.
Tells you something.
You gonna look me in the eye and tell me Gonky doesn't have a soul from the Bad Batch? Come on. B2 Emo, that droid has a soul.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about like if droids can be sentient at the very least, can they be part of the living force? And I'm like, maybe? Because I want to say, you know, Yoda says luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. So droids, I do think, have a luminous part to them, but they're machines. They're not alive biologically.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're like, again, it's philosophical. What connects someone or something to the living force?
I think the Force decides that. The Force works in mysterious ways.
So I'm like, I could kind of see a droid connecting to the living force. I don't know that they would be able to use it. I think that's a little too far for me.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems a little too far-fetched, but I could see all of C-3PO's anxiety feeding into the cosmic force.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything starts somewhere. So if you have this idea that humans have a soul, you know, everything is constantly evolving. Maybe one day droids evolve something that resembles a soul to them. And then the Force is like, you know what? That counts.
I mean, and we can get into like Battlestar Galactica or Blade Runner. And when we get into replicants, which Star Wars does have, like droids that resemble humans, like
they
at the
need
end of
true love to have babies.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that's a Battlestar reference. At the end of the day, like Battlestar Galactica, the Cylons are manufactured, but like we are to understand that they are just as human as anyone else. Same with Blade Runner. Like the whole message is that a lot of the replicants treat each other more humanely than the humans do. So I think there's an argument to be said of like the evolution of droids eventually connecting to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't think that's ever going to happen in Star Wars.
Right, because we're talking about this as if it's not something that people are writing, like that humans are writing. Like if this were a real thing, what would happen? Because yeah, that would, to be honest, open a can of worms.
Right.
That we wouldn't know what to do with going forward, I think.
And it's weird because they keep like kind of brushing up against droid sentience and droid rights, where we have droids like L337 being like, we're all being subjugated. Mm-hmm. And then we had the droids in The Mandalorian season 3 on that world where they were like, it's our purpose and we like it. And it just kind of like, it's bouncing back and forth. It seems like Star Wars doesn't know what it wants to say about droids. So I'm very interested in the Dark Droid arc, especially after what Charles Soule said. Like, I think he's going to try to bring it all together and maybe make it work.
Yeah.
And maybe there will be a droid using the Force. I don't know. I kind of hope not, but...
Yeah, I mean, Disney, Star Wars, they like to skirt around a lot of things. So it could just be a matter of time where we get enough droid characters like L3 and lots of others where they're like, you know what, we can work with this, working into a story, which might be what Charles Soule is doing. Similar to what we saw in Visions Volume 1 with
TOB1.
TOB1, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up because that was a droid that had a kyber crystal within him, and he could use the Force. It's not canon, but...
But we're saying the kyber crystal is the reason for that?
Yes, but also, like, if we're talking about a rock that is Force sensitive and connected to the Force, then why can't
it's a mineral.
Well, okay. They're minerals, Marie.
They're rocks, Hank.
No, they're minerals. Jesus, Marie, I got some geodes coming that are very delicate, all right?
I get it. I don't know what the difference is, but it's a mineral. It's a non-living thing normally. But this one mineral is. So why not droids too?
Yeah.
I feel like my answer has changed for this over the years, but the deeper I think about it, it just like makes my head hurt.
Yeah.
I'm like, it is. I think it's possible.
It's a slippery slope thinking about these concepts because
Yeah.
you can easily just talk yourself into one direction having come from a different direction, and I don't know. It just depends on what the writers decide to do.
Yeah.
We're not writers.
No.
Blakey Boo asks, what happened to Vader's helmet after the rise of Skywalker? So, like the melted remains of Vader's helmet.
Right. So last time we saw it, it was in Kylo Ren's like big white room on his Star Destroyer, but then it transported through the Force to Kijimi, and that's how Kylo Ren knew where Rey was, and he like popped back up into space because they were having that weird trippy duel.
Mm-hmm.
So did it make it off Kijimi, or did it just blow up with the planet?
Wait, was it on Kijimi?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, I don't remember that.
Yeah, they're fighting, and they like cut the pillar that it was on apart,
Right.
and then it like teleports down because
like-
they had that connection.
Like the beads, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet someone on Kijimi found it and is using it for a paperweight or something.
Yeah, but then Kijimi blows up.
Oh, right. Well, not looking good.
So my thought is that it's my thought still ends with it exploding, I think. But this to me sounds very familiar to like what happened to Kylo Ren's helmet after Starkiller Base. Like it was on Starkiller Base, and then he still had one in The Last Jedi. So I think Kylo Ren has someone like a low-ranking First Order member, a private, who just has to follow him around and pick up after him. Because Kylo Ren is always just leaving stuff behind. And so this guy is just picking up helmets and picking up lightsabers or whatever. And he takes it back to Kylo Ren's room.
Yeah, that's the only explanation. Or, like, they're, like, heavily magnetized or something, and he's got a little magnet that he can turn on and off. And as he was leaving, he turned it on and, like, zip, all the pieces.
He's like, oh, yeah, I need to bring that along.
Yeah.
Got a little, like, tether. Yeah, he just seems like a forgetful guy, and someone has to clean up and make sure that he doesn't forget anything. Or the only way I see it surviving and moving past the sequel trilogy, which I do think is possible, is that someone on Kijimi saw it and was like, I know what that is. And they picked it up and they were like, time to go sell this on the black market or something. And they leave Kijimi. Mm-hmm. So I do think that there's a way for the helmet to still be around.
Sure.
But I think the most likely scenario for now is that it exploded.
Yeah.
Either on Kijimi or on a Star Destroyer.
It could just look like a piece of junk to some people. I guess I would be a little shocked if someone just automatically recognized what it was, but it looked like there were a good mishmash of types of people on Kijimi, so there's probably plenty of people just like what Jawas do. They're just picking up anything and trying to sell it.
Yeah.
So I think that's possible.
Someone
too.
probably picked it up, didn't even know what they had, and sold it for way too little money.
On to YouTube questions. DigiPen92 wants to know if the kids from the Skeleton Crew will appear in future seasons of The Mandalorian, or if Din and Grogu will cameo in the new series.
I think that Skeleton Crew is probably going to be mostly its own thing. We already know that Vane, that one pirate from season 3, like he was in the celebration footage shown. So the pirates are going to be a part of this story. So it's definitely going to be connected. But I'm hoping, I guess, that it's a more self-contained thing. I don't want Din and Grogu to kick the door in of every Mandoverse show on episode 5 and then take over.
I think that's what's going to happen. Look what it did for Book of Boba Fett.
I agree that those episodes are probably my favorite of the Book of Boba Fett, but I think Boba Fett had a lot more going on behind the scenes where that was supposed to be part of the Mandalorian and part of them continuing his story. Skeleton Crew, I think, was devised as its own thing that will exist in the Mandoverse, but I hope it serves as these characters' introduction to the universe.
Yeah. Well, I guess even saying that, out of the two of these options, I think Din and Grogu cameoing in their show makes more sense to me.
Why?
Just because, like, they're going off on Grogu's journeys and adventures.
True.
And, like, imagine Grogu interacting with all these kids. That would be so cute.
Right. I mean, like,
Their biggest moneymaker right now for Star Wars is Mando and Grogu. So
I know. I don't want it to be a crutch. And that feels like a crutch to me. So I'm hopeful that the opposite happens.
I just don't think anyone out there other than podcasters are saying, well, I don't want it to be a crutch.
I think some people think that.
I don't. They'd be like, Mando and Grogu showed up in this episode of Golden Girls. Oh my god.
Yeah, okay. I do think that my parents would probably be thrilled about it. Not to disparage my parents, but you're right. They don't spend all of this time in talking about this stuff. So I get it. But I don't want every show to turn into the kind of sort of Din and Grogu show. So I'm against it, even though I really liked it in the Book of Boba Fett and thought it helped that series out.
I'm not against it, obviously.
Yeah.
I also don't want it to be a crutch, but I have accepted that it will probably continue to happen.
I do think that the kids will appear again after Skeleton Crew Season 1, whether or not there's a Season 2, but as part of the Mandoverse storytelling, I assume they're going to be somehow connected to Dave Filoni's movie eventually, even in a small way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh,
Just got everybody in the video today.
I know. It's a star-studded Q&A.
Rishav Ramcharan 22 asks if the Church of the Force exists after the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I think they do. So that was like Lor Santeca's group. The Church of the Force has existed for at least hundreds of years because they were back during the High Republic as well. So I don't think that Kylo Ren wiped out all of the Church of the Force on Jakku.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they had like a radio show or newsletter or something that spread themselves further than that.
Yeah. I mean, like, people know about the Force. Not everyone can use it, but the Church of the Force is just people who can't use it, but feel connected to it, know they are connected to it, and still revere that connection. So it wasn't like that was the entirety of the Church of the Force right there. Mm-hmm. It was just one church, I guess.
I think it would be an interesting concept to bring back up at some point, because it is one of those ideas that could literally pop up anywhere. Anyone could be getting those newsletters.
And it was one of George Lucas's ideas. He was developing it for Star Wars Underworld back when it was going to be the first Star Wars TV show that never came to be. But, you know, they keep mining things from that, and the Church of the Force is one of them. So I think we will probably explore them more at some point.
Danny Cheese 42 wants to know if Din, Grief Karga, Boba Fett, or anyone else could take Talon Karrde's role in the Thrawn story in Filoni's movie.
So going back to the original Thrawn trilogy, Talon Karrde is kind of like a smuggler leader who unites all of those factions and says like, hey, the Empire's trying to come back. That's no good. And we should do something to help fight against that as well, and not just leave it up to the same old people.
So they're still a smuggler?
Yes.
Because, like, Din, Grief Karga, Boba Fett, they're not really... I don't consider them to be smugglers.
But I think I get kind of... It's more the scum and villainy faction. I wouldn't call Talon Karrde, like, scum. He's more of, like, like a gentleman pirate. Like, he's kind of respectable.
Okay.
More of a Lando scoundrel type. Like, he still does some shady stuff, but he's not terrible.
Sure.
So I think that maybe Grief Karga actually fits that role pretty well. But I remember speculating that Boba Fett might do that, where he's trying to unite criminal syndicates. Doesn't seem like that's going to work out now. So he's probably not going to take that position, but I think the idea of just bounty hunters or smugglers or whoever, maybe it's just Mandalorians being like, hey, we'll help out too. I think that that's probably still on the table.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me too for Grief Karga, because he might, after a while, he might get tired of just being up in his fancy office, wearing his fancy robes, doing, you know, the magistrate life there.
And
so.
it seems like part of his arc is learning to support the New Republic. In episode 1, he's laughing them off. And then in season 3, he's asking them for help and he doesn't get it. Din has to come in and help. But I could see Grief being part of that journey. Also, we should point out, like, I think there's room for Talon Karrde in the universe.
Or Fennec Shand.
Yeah, Fennec Shand. Like, there are plenty of options. I think Fennec could work too. But I think Talon Karrde could just be made canon. There's nothing standing in his way, I don't feel.
It's got a cool name.
Yeah.
I mean...
It's a pretty good name.
Yeah. We could definitely see that happen too. Santo Benedict asks if Jalen from the Outlaws trailer could actually be Kyle Katarn. Oh yeah, because he's got the kind of the outfit and the shoulder pauldron thing.
He does look a lot like Kyle. I'm going to go with no. Because even though he does resemble, it would be funny if they just changed his name to Jalen for the trailer, but he's actually Kyle.
Because, I mean, what kind of name is Kyle in the Star Wars universe?
This is pretty funny. Just such a normal name, but like Kyle Katarn.
Dang it, Kyle.
You have to say Kyle Katarn.
I know, yeah.
Because Kyle Katarn sounds great. Just Kyle. We are like just throwing names under the bus this Q&A.
I'm saying the Star Wars universe.
I have friends named Kyle. I'm not.
I know. Well, okay, so what if Jalen is Kyle Katarn's middle name? And he's like, you know what? I've gotten enough flack for calling myself Kyle. I'm going by Jalen now.
I'm going to assume that Jalen is some sort of homage to Kyle, because I don't think you throw that look together without knowing the similarities. But I don't. Kyle to me is not an outlaw. You know, he is I mean, he was at one point. He was a stormtrooper turned mercenary turned rebel turned Jedi. He did a lot. He had a very storied career. But Jalen just seems like run of the mill scoundrel smuggler kind of guy. So I think that there could be some allusions to Kyle, but not make Jalen actually Kyle himself, because especially at that point in time, that's not where I would think he would be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have hopefully a lot of interviews to look forward to the game designers and developers, and maybe one day we'll find out that, like, yeah, they wanted to use Kyle, and Lucasfilm said maybe no, and then they were like, okay, well, we can do something similar. Or I also had the thought that in that scene, Kyle Katarn is actually just off screen, and he comes in, he's like, get out of my chair. Why you got my stuff on?
Yeah, give me my shirt back. Jalen just robbed Kyle Katarn. He's in his boxers.
Yeah, he's He's just a goofball, messing with him, stealing his clothes and stuff.
That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.